let's begin understanding your academic and professional background.
Okay. Good morning, Vikram, first of all, and thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. So, beginning with my academic background, I'll start with my standard 12 marks. I was a topper in my school for standard 12. I had a commerce background. I'm a chartered accountant and a company secretary by qualification. And I have also done my graduation from Delhi University and cleared a couple of papers of actuarial science. In my CA and CS journey, I have been All India Rankholder in CA once and thrice in my CS. Coming to my professional experience, I come from a PSU background. I have worked for a Maharatna PSU, and I was working in the business development and the strategy side of things, and was working very much close to the chairman of the company, planning the diversification of the company, as I come from a hardcore mining company and ours used to be a sunset industry. So my experience was all around planning a diversification plan so that the company doesn't stop working in like 10 to 15 years. And that's how we started getting into renewables. And that's more of like what my work experience has been.
Okay, great. And so you were clearly doing so well in your career. Why did you decide to apply to ISB? Did you apply to any other business schools as well, along with ISB?
So I'll be taking the first question first, that why ISB thing. I come from a financial background, being a chartered accountant. So I was very much, good with the finances thing. But as I was working in the business strategy department, I realized that the business acumen was lacking somewhere or the other. I used to interact with people from different businesses, different industries, the top-notch management people from big business houses like Tata and Adani. And we had a management consultant also on site all the time. So I used to realize that there was this nitty-gritties which I was missing out on. And I needed to up my game if I wanted to survive or wanted to contribute more rather than survive. So this was the thing. I always had this glass ceiling above of me, which I wasn't able to penetrate. So I needed something to do. I talked with these management consultant and top business leaders that what should I exactly do? How can I up my game? So they were like that this MBA from a good B school can really help you. You have that financial acumen, and then an understanding of business will make you a good leader, a great leader in future. So I sat down, I searched which B school I should exactly go to with a 4.5 years of work experience. And then I boiled down on Indian School of Business, which was ranked first amongst all the B schools in the country. So talking about any other B school, it was a complete no-no for me because I'm a very focused kind of a person. So I have my plans and a backup plan. So my backup plan was to apply to the IIMs if ISB doesn't happen to me. And I didn't want to go parallelly attacking all the B schools because it dilutes your attention and focus. So my complete plan was that first of all, I would apply to ISB. If ISB happens, well and good. If ISB doesn't happen to me, then I can go to IIMs. Talking about abroad B schools, abroad was a complete no-no for me obviously for personal reasons. There was nothing professional attached to it. Obviously, I had this ROI thing in my mind because I had to come back to India. So if I, paid fees in dollars and earned salary in rupees, that wouldn't sound financially well off to me. So this is a decision which I took, and it was a very sound decision, I feel, from my perspective. And even I suggest to other people that have your ranking for B schools which you want to apply to. Don't go by FT rankings or any Bloomberg ranking. Your ranking should be your personal thing. That's what I understand.
Lovely. So there are several chartered accountants who apply to ISB. What do you think worked in your favor to get you such a high scholarship?
First of all, the academic helps. I had the All India rank in my CA intermediate, and I had a qualification in CS also, and I had a single digit AIR in my CS also. But besides that, what I particularly think worked for me was understanding of where I am standing right now and where I want to go. This alignment is something that we need to ensure. We can write down that I want to become a consultant or get into something which is very, it seems to be very, very good, but your profile doesn't match it, then it will be really difficult for you to justify it when you are facing your interview or either in your application. So I had this clear understanding that I am into the business development and strategy part. I'm lacking in few skills, which I have mentioned in my applications. And then I elaborated upon how ISB can particularly help me in, upping my skills, and how that can help me to reach where I want to reach. So my long-term goal is also business development and strategy in an energy conglomerate. I come from an energy background in the business development and strategy, and I was just going to ISB to up my skills, which I was lacking right now. So it makes sense. The whole story should make sense to the outcome, and that's how my application went, and my interview was also around all these things. So I think this is the major thing that worked for me, rather than academics isolated or the GMAT score in isolation.
Right. And given your CA and CS background, what were the key focus areas in terms of your approach to building your application?
I knew, being a CA and CS, my finance background was sorted. Finance was nothing that I needed to focus upon. The business side of things was more my concern, the negotiation, the software skills, because I'll be very honest, the CAs don't go to any school, any undergraduate schools. Many of the CAs don't. And we lack the soft skills a lot. And this is why a e-school MBA is very important for a CA if he wants to get to the business side of things. You can work on the back end. Obviously, you punch in numbers and do numbers stuff, analytics stuff. That won't require that soft skills. But when you're on the front side of the business, interacting with people, pitching to the people, or you want to take the business forward, you would need that soft kind of skill. So I was very brutally honest in my application that finance is sorted for me, but the softer skills, the business skills is something which I was lacking, and I need ISB to teach me that. So my focus was on those things in my application.
Okay. And in your essay, you have talked about your plan to take a business development role with the energy conglomerate. Yeah. Why did you pick this career goal, and how did you relate it with your past experience?
Absolutely. So I'll start. I joined the Maharatna PSU. I was in 6 months into being a CA. For this first 6 months, I was into the taxation things. But seeing the presentation skills or my interest in the business side of things, I was put up in this Gen X team to plan the diversification of the company, the business strategy and development part. And I started working on the solar energy projects. And I really liked what I was working upon. But the main concern at that point in time was my skills. The company was doing good. Everything was fine. It wasn't the company's fault. It was my fault. I was understanding that my skills lacked. And that's why I wanted an MBA. And coming from an energy background, it made more sense to me that I should go and pursue the energy. And I should target an energy conglomerate post my MBA, because that was an alignment I was looking for. It wasn't like I want to do an MBA and then plan things. It was for me that my goals is fixed, and then I wanted to understand that which path can take me to that goal. So my goal was fixed, and that's why the MBA thing happened to me. I will be very honest on this, that it wasn't a dream that I want to get into ISB and do whatsoever ISB offers to me. I wanted to become a good business leader in the energy domain. And for that, I was suggested by people that you should do an MBA. And that's where ISB happened to me.
Great. And you joined Coal India 2 years after completing your CA. What did you do during this period, and how did you justify this in your application and the interview?
This gap years things are really, people really feel fear about gap years, how gap years are pursued, yes. How people see the gap year thing. Even I had this in my mind, that how would I justify gap years? But I went brutally honest about my gap year in my application. I wrote that there were some problems back in my family for which I had to work in my family business. And I was asked a question about it in my interview, that why you have a 2-year gap, what did you exactly do? So I explained the situation to them. There was a story behind it, because if you have done something for real and something has happened to you, you always have that story. And the interviewer is smart enough to understand that either you are making up stories or it's a truth. It will take them 2 minutes to get into your skin and understand your game.
Yes, absolutely.
So I was very honest. I told them that there was some family problems back in my family, so I had switched to my family business. There is a thing that they don't see gap years as a flaw. They want to understand that if you have used that gap year to your positive. So if you have learned few things, I was working in my family business and I learned a thing or two in my family business, and I explained to them that these 2 years were not waste for me. Even I was in my family business, which was not my short-term or long-term goal. It happened to me, but there were few things which I learned or garnered from it, and I can help, to help. Those can help me in my journey in the longer run. So this is how I sold my gap year story to them, and that being a truth was bought by them. So you need to be very honest. You cannot play with these smart 10 years, 15 years alums. You cannot play with them.
Yes. And especially when you're talking truth, the word comes easy.
Absolutely. Because if you are lying a question or two more and you are gone.
Yes.
So you cannot be lying to me.
So how was your experience interviewing with ISB, and what are the key areas of discussion during your interview?
So your ISB interview majorly depends on who. It's an alum-based interview, so it majorly depends on what years alum come from or what background do they come from. The more experienced the alum, the more smarter they are. So I got two alums. One was 2008 and one was 2012. And they were really smart. They weren't asking me direct questions from my application, but they were framing questions so smartly that I was able to understand that this skill they are testing through this question. So first they put me in a business situation to test that if I have worked in the solar energy business or not. And after that, they remove all the precondition from that case, the business situation which they have given. And then they started testing my financial knowledge. So my professional skills were tested, my academic skills were tested. And I think I was able to convince them up to a point, but they won't let you know that they are convinced. So they'll always don this poker face in front of you, and you need to be really confident when they're asking you questions. Coming to the extracurricular part, they tested my extracurricular also. They put me again into a situation to analyze my extracurricular plus a few skills which I have written in my application. So they won't ask you direct questions that you have written this skill, how you have achieved. They'll put you in a situation, they might put you in a situation to test that whether you have those skills or you have just failed in your application. So write what you are, and I don't think so any skill or anything is not very great or less great. All skill, any skill you have is great. You just need to prove that you have used those skills, or you can use those skills to make a good leader.
So now that you have joined and the classes have kind of started, is there anything particular you're looking forward to?
Absolutely, because I'm very much clear that I don't want to get into consultancy and stuff. There is a lot of cloud around ISB that if you want to get into consultancy, do this, do that, target grades. But I'm very much sure that my target is an energy conglomerate, the business strategy of side of things. So I want to get into leadership positions. So I'll be targeting a few PORs so that I have this on-job or on-hand training of leadership thing. So these are the things which this is the thing which I'm targeting. Besides my ACADS, I won't be doing any case forms or ELPs because that won't help me in what I want to achieve. Right. So do what you want to do, understand that what will help you in getting your long-term goals, and target those things, because ISB has a plethora of options. You will just be overwhelmed when you enter ISB with things coming your way. So you need to be very choosy. You have to have your priorities set right, and you need to make selections based on an informed based sources, or you need to talk to people to understand what works right for you or there.
Excellent. So before we wrap up, what will be your advice to prospective applicants, especially those coming from a background similar to yours?
My advice would be that don't do an MBA just because you want to have a brand on your CV. Do an MBA if it makes sense to you, because everybody cannot get or doesn't get a scholarship. You'll be paying a 40 lakh bomb to ISB, and it should make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it will be really difficult for you to defend yourself in your application or in your essay. Get your priorities of B-schools right. If ISB is something which can help you to get your long-term goal, go for ISB. Else you should understand that if you should do an MBA or which school you should go to. And after that, be very honest in your application. Your application is your fortress and you are a single man army. So you need to defend your application with all your might. So first of all, be honest. And if you have written something in your application, you should have all the armory in your backs to defend that. So you need to be very sure that your application, you meet the expectations of AdCom. And if you are lying, you'll be caught in a minute or two.
Right. And were you really expecting a scholarship or 100% scholarship?
To be very honest, I wasn't expecting a scholarship at all. Getting into ISB, I was really afraid that if I would get into ISB or not. So before the admit rolled out, every night I used to check my mail that did I get anything or not. And scholarship was not a thing for me. But yeah, I planned my application in such a manner that I make sure that I get into ISB. And it happened, scholarship just happened to me. I wasn't planning for a merit scholarship, and 100% was not totally thought of.
Thank you so much. It will really go a long way in advising, people, especially coming from your background. And thank you so much for taking out your valuable time for this.
Absolutely, Vikram. It was really lovely talking to you. Thank you so much.